Well, hey everybody, it's Cathy, and we're going to go over some Tech Tuesday stuff today with everybody with the gang. We have one thing that came up this week that I wanted to talk about for sure, which is kind of diving down into lead capture pages. And then if you guys have questions, we can certainly open it up for questions or have questions about lead capture. ER, you and I were just talking about this earlier, and just how you can really create forms with this.
Well, let's bring everybody into the conversation on this, Cathy, because okay, my intended use is to use this specific card to gather leads. I'm not going to use it for anything else. It's going to be specific to gathering leads. So it's going to have a lead capture form on it. We know that. But Cathy, one of the things that you and I were talking about, which I think sometimes gets overlooked when somebody just adds a campaign to a card and throws a form on there, is they miss out on the opportunity to use the context of the card itself to direct people to fill out the lead capture form.
Absolutely.
And here's what I mean by that. Like, let's say your card, and again, I'm just going to throw out an idea, Cathy. I might even do what I do and draw something on the board, but you could use a video landing page as a lead capture form. And here's what I mean by that, right? Or I'm going to build a card. It's going to have some logo at the top. Let's say, Cathy, right? Here's my card. It's going to have a logo at the top, LOGO logo, right? So I want to have some branding. It's going to have a video, right? And there's the video. And then it's going to have the form. And the only reason why we have a video is to direct people to fill out the form. Alternatively, you could have a card that has, the same logo, but maybe it has an image on it or it has some amount of text. But what I was talking about, Cathy, is using the context of the card to really focus on the primary thing, which is the form. So this text would say, fill out the form. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people overlook when they're talking about leveraging a shuffle card for lead capture. Is it's not just throw a lead capture form on your card and hope that somebody fills it out, right? I could understand it when you're maybe making an optional or mandatory pop-up. They're not getting the context of the card in the background, but typically then you preface that before you even sent them to the pop-up, right? Like where Mike might say, give me your contact information and you can have my card. Or where Jeff Vaggi would say, do you want the 7 tips of what not to do online that everybody else is failing at? Okay, great. Follow this link, provide me your information, and then the 7 tips reveal themselves. In this case, we're talking about, I'm going to tell them, hey, everybody, ER, it was so great to meet you. I would love to connect with you. Take an opportunity, a minute of your time, and fill out that form below. And we can set up a time to meet, or we can schedule something, or I can get to know you, or you can answer these questions. And I'm actually using the video or the copy to direct people to the action I want them to take.
So absolutely. I was gonna do what we always do. I was gonna sit here and build out something. Yeah, take all the actions while you talk.
If you want to do that, we can do that. And if anybody has any questions about this or about different variations on this, and Cathy, I think the easiest one we could do would be like a video landing page. And obviously we'll just keep the default video in there. But think about this. It's an event landing page. We're going to capture some leads with it. The whole goal, we've uploaded all of our existing profile information, and Cathy's going to hit create and edit. And then we've got the start of our template. Right now we see we're doing something that's more focused. Go ahead and hit OK and hit refresh. I know they were pushing some stuff to the database. So, okay. Let's get back out of here, Cathy. The card's already been created. Maybe you can go in and edit. And if not, we're going to have to refresh and come back or edit an existing card in Doug Demos.
Yep. I am.
The best thing to do, go up in the URL and then highlight back to lfi.com or the app.lfi.com and just hit return, and it'll take you back to your thing. There we go.
I move everybody around and find all the buttons.
Right. And then you can just scroll down. If you scroll down, it might be right there. Nope.
Doesn't like me today. All right, let's go in here. I know they had just done that push.
They did. That's what we were on with earlier.
All right, let's see what we have. We use this one.
Yep.
Maybe. There we go.
There we go. Okay, so here we've got our card, but again, we want the main purpose of this card to be filling out a form. Again, if your purpose is something different, like schedule a time with me and you're going to link it to some scheduling tool, you can do that. But let's focus on the core purpose of our card, because remember, we always talk about this: right information to the right person at the right time. If I'm meeting somebody and I want to gather information to them, I want to have a card available that's like my info gathering card, and I want to send that to somebody, and the directive of that card is to fill out the info. And then be aware of what you can put on the info when you start creating that form within the campaign. The other thing that I want to call out here is, in this case, we're talking about where we put our campaign form on the card. So you can actually move that element around. Even though it looks locked, we're still adjusting the placement. And then, again, up to you. In this case, sometimes it's better to just have a video. Sometimes it's better to have a little bit of text. The person may not play the video, So I would try and put in some information that's, again, it's all about directing somebody to fill out what I want them to fill out. A good example of this, Cathy, I remember we had a user on the platform who was a travel agent, you know what I mean? And every time she would have a client who was getting ready to go on vacation, she would send them out a client survey card. And literally the campaign form was more questions about what type of travel do you want to do? What type of activity level do you want to have? All of these things, so that when she had that call with them, she was able to suggest activities if they were active, or upgraded seating if they wanted to travel in luxury, etc. And that's all based on what she put on the card. So you can see right here, please complete the form below.
So I'm preview. So we see what we got.
Yep. So, again, very, very simple. I've got the logo, I've got the video, I've got some direction, again, up to you if you even want to have the social links. And then, as you can see, we're just previewing that card because we haven't created a campaign for it. So go on ahead and leave this preview up if you, okay, it's just like that. Okay, hit save. And then what I'd like to do, Cathy, is if we can hit preview on this card so that we have a tab open, that's the original preview. And then let's go in and create a campaign. And if there are any questions as we go along, guys, feel free to ask away in the chat or raise your hand using the reactions.
Because I think that's really one of the things that confuses people the most, right? Is they make the card and they don't know, like, where's I can't see the campaign, and they're not sure where it is yet.
And I think this is something that, again, if you have a campaign card, you can run different campaigns using that same card that's directing them to fill it out, but create a campaigns that have different stuff for them to fill out. And so that's one of those things to understand. And Cathy's on that card. She's going to go to campaigns, and she's going to create a new campaign. And again, you can create an unlimited number of campaigns. So it's still one card, but you could have campaign A for that one card, B, C, D, E. And so this is the event campaign. We're going to use it to capture leads. The name of your campaign, nobody's going to see it, okay? This is just for your information. We always say whatever gets measured gets managed. So we want to create different campaigns so we can see what's doing good. Was going to this event on 5/3/22 worth my time and energy? Well, it would be if it generated 25 new prospects for you, or it wouldn't be if you got a big goose egg, you didn't get a single lead out of it. And so that's why we would always recommend to people create different campaigns. Now, this might be a little bit redundant. Every time we talk about campaigns, we're going to talk about two types of notifications, okay? One is the notification for the campaign itself, and then the other one will show up if you're doing the lead capture. And you can set different notification levels. And Cathy, you and I always tell this story about the person who posts their campaign in social media in a group with 10,000 people, and all of a sudden their phone is going off and they're getting all of these views. It's because they set individual views for that campaign. What this is going to do is every single time your campaign gets viewed, that card gets viewed through this campaign link, you're going to get a notification to you each and every time. So think about that. It's right up on the wall of the group. There's 10,000 people. A lot of people start clicking it, and all of a sudden you're like, boom, 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 boom. If that warm and fuzzy helps you, then set it as individual. If you're going to get annoyed with just knowing that a lot of people are viewing your cards, set it as a daily summary and pick a time. And the daily summary is just going to give you a record of the total views within the last 24 hours from that time. And then you can get email notification of that daily summary or push notification. Unless you're going to check it, you pick your personal preference. I'm not an email person. So if I can save myself from getting one more email, I won't look at it. I'll come and pull that information, or I'll want it to get pushed to me, sent to me real quick, and I can take a quick snapshot. Oh, okay, I got 25 views of that campaign yesterday.
Yeah, and I think, again, so creating the campaign, that's what people forget, that's where lead capture is under, right? So you have to make a campaign to make the lead capture. And, one of the things we were talking about was our lead capture form. It's very unique, I think, in the digital marketing world, because it's something that you can personalize. You can make, it's not just name, email, phone. You can ask, specific questions. To your point, if this is a travel agent at an event wanting to know what kind of travel that you do, they can ask questions specific to themselves, their business, or whatever they offer.
Yep. I mean, again, this could be something, my daughter's going to have a birthday party, and we're going to, send out a card that's, tell us what you want to eat. Are you meat eater? Are you vegetarian? It doesn't matter, type of thing. Again, those could be all questions that we're putting on our campaign. So when you first check the box to include a lead capture form, and Cathy, it can't be understated, if you want lead capture forms on any of your cards, you must be using a campaign link, okay? Then you're deciding, where do I want that lead capture form? The show on the bottom should really read show on the card, because we moved it from the bottom of the card to really right underneath that video. The optional pop-up, we'll put it up in front of the card. We've seen a lot of examples of that. That's where you want them to see that before they see the card itself. But because we're focused on a card where the context of the card points to the form, we're going to keep it on the card. The only difference between the optional and the mandatory, an optional one, when it pops up, they can hit a button and close it down. The mandatory one, the only way to get it closed down is to submit the form with whatever information they're going to provide.
And I would say be very careful on using mandatory a lot, right? So think about yourself, think about how you're using it. Now, if I'm using this in my networking group, right, and I meet somebody and I know for a fact that every person I shake hands with and I'm having an interaction with, I want to make sure that I get their information. Yep. Number one, you don't want to annoy them, because then every time they go to access your card, they're going to get that mandatory pop-up. So maybe that's a separate card that you're using specifically for lead capture versus the one you send them, right, once they know you. Or B, if you're going to do an event, and it's just, maybe it's $25 gift card for all the leads that we, put, everybody's going into a hat. Then you do want mandatory, right? You do want name, email, phone, or whatever you've asked of them, because they're giving you information for something that you're giving away. Right. So I always just say, be very careful, not annoy people with the mandatory, and to use it wisely. Or to your, what was your other example, Yar? Like my 7 tips to becoming a billionaire, right?
Where I'm trying to lock out something behind there, you know what I mean? So that they have to submit this form in order to get that information. I mean, again, be judicious on how you use the optional versus the mandatory pop-up. Because some will serve you in certain scenarios better than others.
So you could say something like, no spam, I promise. Or when I'm talking to somebody, I'll tell them, hey, this information is strictly for me. It doesn't go to my corporate office. Of course, unless it does. If you're shipping information to another company and you're just lead capturing, let them know that. The other thing I think, Mike always talks about using this as your funnel is maybe changing the title to, hey, put your information in my phone contacts. To me, I'd be like, oh, I'm just adding this to Cathy's phone contacts. This isn't an email drip that she's about to start annoying me with or whatever, right? So be specific on what are they going to get for giving you this information.
Well, and Cathy, as you can see right here, this is your label for your lead capture form. This is even more important if you're doing an optional or mandatory pop-up where that might be the first text that they see. In the example I had on the board where instead of a video we used text, there could be a scenario where I leave this completely blank and instead I use the text on my card to be a better descriptor. Hey, it's so great to connect with you. I'd love to get your information added to my mobile phone so that I can contact you. Please fill out the form below with that information. I promise you I'll never spam you. You know, that's not a paragraph that you're going to put in this line. Instead, you're going to use it on the text and then put the form section directly underneath the text on that card.
Absolutely. So that's just another thing to think about is that title, the text that's above it or below it, that kind of information. So then we'll go through the form. I love our form. I love when it became something that we could manipulate, change. Always ask first name, and first name is always mandatory.
And the reason why, Cathy, is because when somebody submits this form, we need at least, it's going to all go under a contact. So we need at least a name. We don't need the last name, but we need a first name. So when they say Tom, you know what I mean? Then underneath Tom, you have all of the other details that they've filled out. Now you could add a last name if you wanted to, and there's a few things that you can add on your forms. You can add a short text field. So what's a short text field? That's a line of text. You know what I mean? One line down, a name, a phone number, any snippet of information, a last name, a favorite color, you know, where the response is something, you know, one word answers, you know, that's a great way for a short text field. Now, short text field, you're still leaving it open-ended for that member or that viewer to put in data. We'll talk about actually limiting what the response is in a little bit lower here. The next one is your long text field. What's a long text field going to allow you to do? You can see when you put it in here, they're going to actually have more room to write out and fill something out. You know, tell me about yourself or about your business or about you or about your problem or about where you want to go, or again, whatever. You're asking more of an open-ended question and you're expecting a longer response from the respondent who's submitting your form. Now you have a radio box. A radio box is something where you want to limit their choice to your group of choices and only allow them to choose one. Okay, so you know, when do you want to travel, or what's your favorite ice cream? You know, chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry. There are three choices that you've allowed them to choose from, but a radio button will only allow them to select one of those. You know, so in Cathy's case, maybe it's summer or winter. They cannot select both. They're either going to select summer or winter. And again, think about the questions that are going to best help you in your interaction with that person so that you're getting the right information. Also, and I want to throw this out at this step, you may want to send a campaign form to an individual. In this case, maybe I've been already interacting with Cathy and I'm like, oh, I want to do your travel plans. Great. I'm going to send you the traveler questionnaire card and you're going to fill out the form with that. I know it's going to go to Cathy, but I'm still going to use a campaign link and send that campaign to Cathy. Also, one thought I had before we move on, Cathy, back up on the optional and mandatory pop-ups at the top. A good thing that you can do is if you are sharing out your campaign and not gathering any leads and you've used mandatory, that is your first indicator that people are bouncing from your card, because they're either going to submit something to get past mandatory, which means every time you share that, you get a response. And if you're not getting any responses, you know, that means I would change it from mandatory or optional or show it on the card would be the first gut check there.
Totally. Go in and double check what you're asking. How many things are you asking? Is it too long? Is it too detailed? You're right. To Mike's point, this is the beginning of your funnel. This is where you're just trying to get them into your, into your information so that then they can select a path of conversation with you.
Anna, do you have an example? How would you send something through the campaign? What do you mean?
I guess that's what I'm hearing, is that you're in the campaign, you're building this radio box, and then you said if you want to send them something through the campaign, and I didn't get that.
Oh, no, you just want to use the campaign link and use that to send to somebody.
So would you like the free whatever?
Yeah, I think
Or
so.
would you
And correct me if I'm
to-
wrong, ER. I think what you mean is so I can send you a card. Hey, it's nice to meet you. Here's my card. I'd like to collect your information back, right? And then we exchanged information. That's just like a card exchange. Now we're talking, right? And I'm like, I really am kind of more interested in that legal shield that I first realized, because now we've connected, we've had a great conversation. You're like, oh, great. I'm going to send you a form on that, just so I know better what to talk to you about. Let me send you something, and you send a very pointed form on a campaign that you've made. That's like, here's the 7 things that Legal Shield does. Which one are you most interested in? Is that what you're talking about, ER? Like you're using it as a secondary flow of a conversation?
Exactly.
You know what to send? Okay.
Yeah, it's where I know who I'm talking with already, because a big thing that we focus on with campaigns is that I'm sending it out to somebody I don't know, a big audience or stuff like that. But Cathy, to your point, campaigns, because they have the forms, are also used when I need to gather any information from anybody, including known people. So I would have a card that's maybe it's like your pre-Legal Shield call card or a bio card or whatever, that you're trying to discover additional details about somebody and what their needs are or who they are. You would have to create a campaign to have a form, and then you would send that out to the individual as opposed to sending it out to the group or bigger audience.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
So I've even seen a person do a multi-link card, right? So where they're going to link cards together, where one link goes to Let's Connect in my calendar and my, grabbing your information. So like our standard kind of campaign, name, email, phone, where another link went to their pet products. And that one also popped up a thing, and it was like, what's your pet's name? What kind of pet do you have? Yep. So you can use it as kind of different directionals also on the same main card as sub cards and sub questionnaires.
Yep. That would be a good use of that too. And again, that's an advanced strategy where you're linking multiple shuffle cards together. So you have a primary card, and each one's linking to a campaign card that has a survey attached or a form attached. And so they're able to then choose their own adventure, if you will, and fill out information for you. So we went through the radio button. Now we're on the drop-down menu. And a drop-down menu is similar to a radio button, but instead of showing all the categories and sort of clicking that dot next to each one, you're seeing a drop-down menu, but you can only select one choice. How would you like to travel? Air, train, boat, car, whichever. Again, they only get to choose one option. So radio buttons and drop-down menus, they're going to allow the person filling out the form to select a single option, whereas a checkbox is similar to what we've all done before. Check all that apply. You know what I mean? Check all that apply. And I don't know a good question on travel, Cathy, that's check all that apply. Yeah, what weather do you travel in? And then maybe it's like, I can travel in, sunny, rain, snow, and they will check all that they're comfortable in doing that with. And again, you want to
plane, train, or automobile.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And again, this could be something where, on a drop-down menu, you might give a list and then you might say all of the above. But a checkbox is going to allow you, if you have 5 choices, they could select 1, 2, 3, 4, or all 5.
And then the last thing is to upload the business card photo.
Yep. And that just allows them to upload a photo onto the form to send back to you. They can use their mobile device to upload that image and send it. There are some limitations that we should all be aware of based on the resolution size. So if they do try to send you a big resolution image, it may time out the form that they're sending. So be aware. And if you're not trying or don't need to collect anything visual from that person, I would typically default to not adding that. Also, don't feel like you have to have radio buttons, check boxes, drop-down menus, short fields, long fields. What you should be starting out with, if you have anything on your page that says a form, your first thing should be questions, and just bullet point everything that you want to know about the person who would fill that out, and then make a determination. Is that going to be a field, a short field, a long field, a radio button, a checkbox, etc.?
Yeah, I just wanted you to see what each of them look like. The other thing here is that each question can be mandatory or not.
Yep. I would say as a rule, a good rule, I like to organize my questions into those areas where if it's mandatory, I try to keep the mandatory ones all together. But again, it could be in any flow. If you want the first question to be mandatory and the exact last question to be mandatory, just be aware if they're not filling it out and they go to submit the form and they have a blank mandatory field, it will not let the form get submitted. It's going to ask them to complete the form.
Again, so another reason that they may bounce off, right?
Yep. And that's that juggling act that we're trying to do. You can ask more questions, you can ask more things, but the longer you're asking that person to take to spend of their valuable time filling out information for your benefit, maybe for their benefit, but mainly for your benefit, the more likely they are to maybe bounce off that card before they submit it. And the same thing goes for the mandatory. What, do you really have to have my info? Well, yeah, if you want to receive my card or get these 7 tips or whatever it is.
So lastly, you want to talk about this part?
Yes. So this is that second area of notifications. And this is the big one. I will tell you what, as much as I tell people on campaigns to turn off the campaign view notification, I want to suggest 100% of the time you set the form notification to individual. And here's why. As people are filling out your form, in real time, if you have this set to individual, you will get individual push notifications. Your phone will pop up and say, new lead captured or new form captured. And you'll be able to see that. If you put this as a daily summary, you're basically saying there could be a chance that upwards of 24 hours could go by before I even know that somebody filled out this form. And I'm more of this strike while the iron is hot type of person. So if somebody fills out my form, I want to know about it immediately. And then I want to be able to make that choice of, do I reach out to them right now? Do I set a follow-up for tomorrow? But if I don't know it all, and I don't want to rely on myself to pull that information, right? Like log into Shuffle and see if anybody filled it out. I'd rather just the device tell me. I typically don't go through emails, again, because of personal preference, but I will always keep individual push notification on. Now let's talk about what you have. You have a link for this campaign and you have a QR code for this campaign, and you have some quick links for social media to share that link. All it'll do is copy the link and then open the social media. It saves you a step.
Can I tell you how long it was until I realized this button was here, just so you know? I would always snip it. I was always like, what is this save as image? Yeah.
Well, and Cathy, when you click on that save as image, you'll notice, and I think, okay, on here on desktop, you'll get a PNG file. If you're doing this from your mobile app, it'll also give you some size options. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good thing. Think again, how am I using this? I know I'm using this to gather information and collect information from people, but the next question I say, is not just the who, but the how. How am I going to be sharing this out? How are people going to be engaging with this card? If I'm up on the Jumbotron as a speaker at an event, I might want to use a QR code so that audience members can scan it from the convenience of their seat in the audience. But if I'm going to be posting this in a social media group, most likely I want to use the link instead of a QR code because they're probably already on their device and they're not going to be able to scan it. So be aware of how you're sharing this thing out. You copy the link, we'll open up a new tab and we'll take a look at what our card looks like. And again, you'll remember the card from earlier just had a logo, a video, and a please complete the survey below. And then you'll see the difference between the two tabs that Cathy just jumped back and forth on. The first one didn't have the survey. This one does have the survey. And then Cathy, if you scroll up to the top of the survey, let's call through each of these fields. The first name field is a short field. The last name field is a short field, right? They don't have much height to them. You can see the longer text field actually has 2 blocks of text. So as they type, they can sort of see the row of text above if they're writing more long-winded stuff. When do you want to travel? The radio button, Cathy, if you want to go ahead and play around with filling this out, that's fine. You can go on ahead and do a return here and put a second line, maybe even a third line, and see what happens with this when you do that. But again, it's just giving somebody an area where they can see more of what they're typing. And this is an indication that they're asking for more details. Now you can see that it scrolls a little bit. The short text fields do not offer what the long text field will offer for the person filling this out. Radio buttons, right now, click on summer, Cathy. So you can see it's an either or. And again, you can have not just 2 choices, you can have 10 choices, but they can only select one. How would you like to travel? This is our drop down. Again, they have 3 choices, but they only get to choose one. So you base your questions on what are you gathering, and is that a singular choice versus here on the check boxes. If Cathy can travel in all conditions, she can select 1, 2, or all 3 of those things. And she can come in and deselect an option if she actually, accidentally selected it by mistake. And then you have to agree and hit submit. We'll skip over the uploading of an image, and voila, thank you. And it gives her a little successfully submitted, and they're still on that card. So another thing to do on here, Cathy, is at the bottom of the form is another call to action, meaning when they fill out the form and submit it, afterwards you're like, click here next, or visit my homepage, or go somewhere else. Otherwise, what are their only options? They can watch the video again, they can go to social. So right now, after they've done this, their only option is to leave the page, watch the video again, or visit those 3 social locations.
Yeah, and so again, I think it's really important to point out the card hasn't changed, right? The build on the card, if you went and previewed the card that you made, that's still the card that you see. To see the lead capture form, you have to go get that campaign link, which is what most people want to attach to their tap card. It's what most people want to put on a flyer or a banner or a car wrap or a business card on the backside. That QR code and that link that's what the key is to getting that traction, or to getting that lead capture out where you want it on this card.
And so I may never use this card outside of a campaign if the card's design itself is only intended to support a form on a campaign. Also, Rose Michelle, I think, Cathy, you may have seen this question because you're on the right section for it. How do I get the QR code to print on a flyer, et cetera? Okay, so when Cathy pulls up the campaign, just below the QR code, you can see where it says saved image as, and Cathy, you don't even need to click that. Just below that in her browser window, you can see it saved QR code.png right there at the footer of her browser window. That's the image, Rose Michelle, that you would go and you would pull off of your computer and put into your flyer. I hope that helps. It's just like loading any other image into the flyer that you might be printing off. Or
so for me, I would go to so it's in my downloads. So I would just go to my files, look for downloads. It would be right there in my downloads, and then I could place that as a photo or a PNG wherever I want it to go. What else? Oh, I was gonna say, so I also wanted to point out that you can edit a campaign. So to ER's point, maybe you've printed this on something and you're like, man, there's not an awful lot of people filling this out. I'm going to go in and take away some of these questions. Or like what happened with us with our nonprofit is we put a QR code out on a fundraiser postcard that we mailed out. After about 48 hours, we were getting the same questions sent to us over and over again. How much of your dollars, goes to the families? How long have you been in business? I don't remember what they were. But all I did was go back, edit the campaign, add it in the FAQs, right? And then people knew what was going on with that same QR code. Nothing else had to change. You can edit the card, edit the campaign. You still have that same QR code and the same link.
And in fact, Cathy, a good example of this, I was just working with a group. They were going out to an event we were talking about having it pop up on the card, and they originally went through and defaulted everything to a mandatory pop-up. And they had already had all their links assigned to the tap cards and all of that type of stuff. And they were really worried, oh no, if I want it to be an optional pop-up, do I have to go redo all of that work I did? No, to your point, campaign is editable. You just go into the campaign, you click on the event campaign, 5/3/22, and then you choose, I want to shift this from on the form to a optional pop-up, you know what I mean? And then it would just change back over. And all you're doing is hitting save. There's no link change. There's nothing else that you would do. So if Cathy wants to go back and change that back or refresh that other page, you'll see, boom, now it pops up. So it becomes very easy. The big key on the optional is that little X in the upper right-hand corner there allows you to close it down. When they make it mandatory, that X isn't there, and the only way to close it down is to submit the form.
And
now,
in that case, you wouldn't say the survey card below. You would. This is where you could say, thank you for completing that.
Yep.
Please return to my site, or whatever you want to do. So what happens when you fill that out? Or when someone fills it out, where does it go?
Well, the first thing you should be getting, Cathy, is you should be getting some type of alert or notification. If you see in the activities, you can see just the second one, new contact Cathy is received from the event campaign. You'll also see this in the bell notification right by your name at the top. You'd have one of those sort of notifications that you've got a new contact. And then hopefully you've been getting the push notifications because you allowed those types of notifications in your setting on the mobile app. And it's going to fill out and create a contact for you. And it'll also automatically tag that contact that they were a lead that was captured. And they will even identify the tag that is the campaign label. And then they're going to give additional data on everything that they selected based on your form. So we know the questions we asked, right? Like, how would you like to travel? Well, we've selected air, what weather? Well, sunny, tell us a little bit more about your vacation. That was that long field one. And when do you want to travel was in summer. So all of that data is being provided to us, and we're ready to start taking action on that information we gathered. Now, when I have that follow-up, that phone call, that meeting to schedule travel for Cathy, I already know I'm not going to suggest Antarctica in the wintertime because it's just not within her thing. I'm going to say, hey, how does a cheap travel package all-inclusive to Hawaii sound? Oh, sounds good. We fly you first class in air. You stay at here. Yeah, sign me up, Again, we're just trying to look for information that's going to allow us to interact with that person a little bit more efficiently.
And I think the only other thing really to cover on campaigns is the fact that you can have multiple campaigns on the same card.
Correct. So if you have like a generic fill this out, or I've sent you some information, please take an opportunity to fill out the form below. When I state it in that way, like, hey, it's so good to see you. Thanks for opening this card up. There's some information I'd like to collect from you. Please fill out the form below and hit submit when you're done so that I can get that information from you and we can move forward. Again, I've set it so broad that I could have 5 different forms that I use on that one card when I send out to collect. And now I'm just choosing which campaign am I collecting for. And one could be my travel campaign. The next could be like my, eating out campaign or whatever, my entertainment campaign, whatever you're doing that best suits you.
So same card, new form, super short.
Super short. I'm going back to like Anna on the legal services that you promote. You could have one form card, but a campaign that might be focused on identity theft versus wills and powers of attorney and estate planning versus,
small business. Yeah.
And now you have a different one for each of those. Business, individual.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any questions on campaigns? Like I said, I just was like, we talk a lot about the higher level, putting card to card, sandwiching a campaign in between. I just wanted to talk about just campaigns in general, why to use them, how to use them, what can you add on them, where do they go, all that kind of good stuff.
Yep. So big bullet points if you're taking notes. In order to have a form or to use a form or to do lead capture, number one, it must be in a campaign, okay? Number two, you can have multiple campaigns per card. So unlimited campaigns, still just one card. But remember, you don't want to send out the card link. You want to send out the campaign link. To Rose Michelle's point, you get oh, go ahead. Was that a question?
Sorry, yeah. Sorry, I'm having trouble. You must send the campaign link, not the card link.
Yes.
Oh, that's so important. I did not know that.
And it's something you want to remember, right? You have your card link, and then because that card could have campaigns, multiple of them, right? Each campaign is going to have an individual link that is different from the card link. And as you use this over and over again, you'll start to notice the difference. If you look up in the URL that Cathy has, you'll see the card link right there. You'll still see that as a portion of the campaign link, but there's some additional data that goes through the URL that identifies the campaign, and that tells us what to pull up and all this other stuff tied to that card.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you see the equals at the end there, you see that extra little part, you know,
It
that's
says
a campaign link.
$T equals. That's basically identifying that this is tied to a campaign.
So we know it's
Awesome.
counting, it's at least counting, if not capturing.
Yeah.
I've been having a lot of views on my campaigns, but not knowing where it's being viewed. So that's the whole point. So campaign, you want to talk about, you're very passionate about this.
No, Rose Michelle, again, you can have multiple campaigns. So even if the form looks the same, like again, let's get super granular. Same card, same form, but different location. I might want to opt, as you saw when Cathy was editing that campaign, she actually put event 322, etc. on the label of that campaign. I think you have to go into the editor and select the campaign. So Rose Michelle, do not be afraid. You get unlimited campaigns per card. You could be working a trade show and create a campaign for each day of that trade show. If you label the campaigns correctly, you will always know where your traffic is coming from. Imagine this, same card, same form, but I have a campaign that goes to Facebook posting, to Instagram posting, to the trade show. And now I can differentiate, even though it's the people see the same thing. They see the same card, they see the same form. I'm measuring it differently, right? You see Instagram link, event link, etc. So you can have, if you were doing something every day, I personally would say get into the habit of creating a daily campaign so that way you could differentiate. Because I've also had instances where I posted something a year ago and it's a campaign link and I'm still getting notifications a year later that there's every now and then people viewing that campaign.
Now, if it's the thing is that you're getting a ton of views and you're not getting a ton of leads, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier on maybe looking at what you're asking, how much are you asking? Yep. Are you giving enough information that they're willing to give their information, right? So I'm just skeptical. That's just me, my nature. So if someone's like, oh, I just, where was I the other day? I was buying shoes. They're like, oh, we can make you a free customer account. Nope, I'm good. I don't really shop here very often. I was just in the neighborhood. Oh, no, it's free. It's free. And I just need your email address. I'm like, I don't need any emails from you. I'm all good. I appreciate, but we'll give you $5 off. No, I'm still good. I'm gonna, but now you gave me a reason to think about giving you my email address, yep. Right? Yep. So if you're getting the views and you're not getting the leads, what is it that you need to change about your strategy?
First of all, you got to be giving something if you're asking for something.
Exactly. I've seen a lot where it's like, I get invited to these all the time. It's a virtual coffee or a virtual lunch, but what they do is they'll either send me a Starbucks gift card or a Grubhub type of certificate, and then I can order food in while I'm getting on a call. Is that worth my information? In some instances, I would give them my information, schedule a call, do all that type of stuff in exchange for that. Other example, like what Mike was talking about, if you want my card and my information and receiving my information is valuable enough, you're going to give me your information in exchange. Or if the, like Anna, in your place, the 5 must-dos to protect all of your assets, from being untaxed at the time of your demise, whatever, you're painting this picture of fear or fear of loss or whatnot, just give me your information and I'll send you that guide, or give me your information and that guide will be behind it.
7 steps to estate planning.
And again, you want to make it have some visceral feeling to them, right? Like estate planning isn't all that sort of sexy, but it's all the stuff that estate planning prevents. You know what I mean? And how to avoid inheritance tax, how to pass along all your assets to your children without the government taking a dime. Whatever those fear of loss things are that individuals have. Now it's like, oh wow, I think I need to know what Anna's offering, because if I don't know this, then the government's going to take all my money when I go to give it to my kids when I pass. That's the type of thing that people are like, I want to avoid. They either want to avoid pain or they want to seek out pleasure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of the ones that somebody came up with is that when you die, do you want them to mourn you or mourn the IRS?
Yeah. And again, that all of that humor and that type of stuff, that's what gets people to take an action,
And maybe your holy capture is just tell me more, right?
Yep.
That's your title. Tell me more. Mike, you have your hand
I
up.
like that one.
The main thing that's going on is basically a value exchange, and it has to be valuable to the people. And ER on mine is not my card that they're trying to get. They're trying to get the 2 hours of free coaching that I give away.
I forgot about that.
That's the value exchange. Because just getting my card, forget your card. They want the 2 hours of free coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And to get that 2 hours, they have to get my card.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's just such an important point of the value exchange, Mike, and thinking about what are you exchanging of value when you're talking with those people. I think the 2 hours of coaching, hands down, is that worth my information? Absolutely. Let me fill that out. I can't wait to schedule time with Mike. The same type of stuff. If you have something valuable like the estate planning stuff, again, is it worth that exchange? Think about that. I see people who offer things like free travel or a free certificate or some type of thing in exchange. Just be understanding what the quid pro quo is.
Well, and I think the other thing too, and this was brought up from a friend of mine who, like I said, she had a booth this weekend, or maybe I was talking about that earlier on the call, but she had a booth this weekend, and they were, I don't know, you're always told you're going to get 7,000 people right through a show or whatever. And when she called me on Friday, she was like, you know what? We got like 40 really solid leads today. And I'm like, you know what? That's a really good attitude, because most people think you're going to a show with 7,000 people, you're going to get 669, 6,000 leads, and you're not. But if you get 40 solid leads in one day, that you know that you talked to, you had a good conversation with, that's a good day. Right? So you may not get every single person to fill out your form, but if you get that form honed in and they do start filling it out, those people are interested.
Well, and at some point in your business, you should be able to quantify the value of a good lead, right? And you should know what your conversion metrics are, right? If I have 10 leads to talk to, I will close 3 new clients, and each new client is worth X number of dollars to me. A good example of this, when we did a lot of search marketing in the past, a big hot topic that was very valuable was like DUI. All the DUI lawyers looking for clients, and they would want to buy traffic. DUI Denver, DUI Houston, DUI Dallas, DUI Washington, etc. Right? because they knew if I could get one new client, it was worth essentially $5,000 to $10,000
minimum.
So they're quantifying all of that. So if you look at a historical record of the leads that you're working and talking to, and you understand the business that's created out of it, you understand that you can quantify that as a value per lead, and then you can go into events like what Rose Michelle is talking about, where I'm creating individual campaigns for those events and saying, oh, wow, if I'm spending $500 to be at this event, I know I need to walk away with this many leads or more to justify that expense, assuming they'll all convert with my same conversion metrics.
That's so
Absolutely.
important, ER. I'm going to reiterate this. Knowing what your return on investment is, it's huge. Most small business owners today are new small business owners, never done this kind of thing before. They're out there paying for other people to help them with their marketing strategies and everything. And what they really want to know is, what are the results of the marketing I've been doing, and what works and what doesn't. And that's what this card provides.
So true. And I mean, you want some measurability, and this goes back to the Rose Michelle, your question about, I don't know where my eyeballs are coming from. You now have the capability to say, I can create a unique campaign for everywhere that I'm posting this out. And you might even get so granular as to say, I will only post the campaign link one time to measure whether that posting works. And then I'll generate a different one for my next one. Instead of having the Instagram campaign that you repost to Instagram every time you post, it could be Instagram Monday, Instagram Tuesday, Instagram Wednesday, Instagram Thursday, or Instagram and the date for every date you post. So you have, to Anna's point, measurability. That's the biggest make or break for businesses, is you have to have a positive ROI, or at the end of the day, your business has to be in the black and can't be in the red. Otherwise, it's not sustainable, right? You got to have more coming in than you have going out. The only way to do that is to make sure whatever efforts you're doing produce the revenue for you, more than what you're spending. If
it's not producing results and you can see that, you can eliminate that one and use the one that works, or add a new one and try that. And that's a test marketing tool.
Well, even like the roofing company, one of the roofing companies I work with, they have a QR code on their van wrap, on their truck wrap. They have a QR code on their business cards. They have a QR code on the yard signs that they leave out in the yard, right? So they can see where is the marketing working? Where are people stopping and taking this information from?
Yeah.
So it could be something as, as broad as, different products that they're branding, all the way to, like you're talking about, I'll put a link that on a Zoom call, and somebody goes and re-watches it, it's still there, right? So you never know when you're going to hit somebody in a different time or place that they're re-watching something.
Don't those guys all wear hats? You can put the QR code on the hat.
Yeah. Well, this all goes back to that same thing, Cathy, to your point. Because you have unlimited use of campaigns, there's no reason to delete a campaign, just like there's no reason to delete a card.
Exactly.
These things are evergreen. You're going to post them out or have them on something that's going to be working even when you're not. And all you want to do is measure the results and measure it against something else. Anna, to your point, if I'm doing broadcast marketing, right? I'm broadcasting the net. I'm using the shotgun approach as most small businesses use, and I'm just throwing it at the wall to see what sticks. The moment you identify what is sticking, that's the thing you scale up, right? You just zone in on it and scale it up. And the ones that you see are not performing, you want to eliminate them as quickly as possible, because they're lost leaders. They're just money being spent. So that way, once you identify what's working, you're focused on scaling it up. And then you have to realize maybe there's a law of diminishing return, but I want to maximize that as I'm also checking out or testing other areas.
Testing new, yeah.
Love it. See, I knew we could do a whole deep dive on campaigns and lead capture.
I'm so thankful for this, really, because I've got lots of views, but I don't have leads coming out of them, and I didn't understand why, because I'm sending out the card link, not the campaign link.
Yeah.
So now I got it, kids.
I think the last big bullet on this as well, and we saw it during training today, test. Send it to yourself. Open it up in your browser. Make sure it looks, it reads, and it feels the way you want the person who's viewing it to encounter it. It might throw off your card count by an extra view. You know what I mean? But outside of that, like just make sure you're taking an opportunity to review and revise. We always say you can come back and edit. You can edit the cards. You can edit the campaign. You can adjust the, the questions, all of those types of things until you dial it in. I think most people expect every time they do a bit of marketing, they're going to hit a home run. And the reality is you're just looking for any type of hit. I'll take a single, a double, a triple, and I love it when the home runs happen. You know what I mean? But you want
all the little ones.
Yeah, get out there and iterate. Wasn't it Billy Bean? If you're one of those sports type of people who said all it is runs on base, that win games. So all we have to do is focus on getting these runs. That's the same is true in business. We're just looking for positive ROI on the campaigns that we're out there conducting, And then if Ruben was on here before he jumped away, the other thing is working the leads that you get. Here's the other thing. If you're not getting leads and you finally get to the point where your campaign form is generating a lead for you, the next step is to work it. Mm-hmm. Work it. Don't get excited that you got the lead. Get excited when the lead becomes a customer. You've got to go through that process. And I've had, I don't know, maybe half a dozen conversations with Ruben over the last few weeks, personal one-on-ones, where he's like, I don't know if he's looking at his shuffle, but he'll be like, this is the 7th interaction, and he'll be like, I feel like the sale is next. And then it'll be like, the sale just happened. And I'm like, yeah, that's part of the process and you're just getting validation of that. So make sure you work those leads when you're getting them in.
I love it. Any last questions? We've already spent a whole hour on this. I can't believe it. We will definitely get this posted very quickly so you guys can refer to it. If anybody has questions for campaigns, I think I'm just about up to date. I think everything from this year that we had is posted under the Tech Tuesday playlist now. So they have a little descriptors and everything. If you guys have anybody you need to send information to, and then again, if there's something we can create or talk about or do on a Tech Tuesday that you think would help you guys, your teams, your people, anyone, future users, please let us know.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Y'all make it an awesome week. Go out and share Shuffle and share your campaign and let us know how that goes.
Fly free.
Yes, awesome. Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.